Because someone fill me in, what's happening with Harry and Sentebale? It all sounds ugly, and what's happening?
Ugly is the right word. There was the charity watchdog released its findings recently, and basically it gave everyone a rap on the wrist saying this shouldn't have been played out so publicly. But there weren't investigations into individual bullying. They said that there was a perception of ill treatment that may have impacted people's time working in the charity. Basically, as you say, it's just been a very ugly public mess, and it is sad because, you know, on all sides, I don't think anyone's come out of this particularly well, but, you know, from a lot of reports, Harry's completely devastated. This is the charity he set up it's about 20 years ago, you know, in honour of his late mother, and it clearly meant a lot to him. But, you know, now he's stepped back, and what he's going to do next is the big question. It seems from his camp that he's keeping all his options on the table. I do wonder if a part of that is him wondering what happens to Sentebale without him and Prince Seiso in their involvement. You know, does funding drop so dramatically that perhaps Sophie Chandauka, the chair, has to step back, and then there's an opportunity for them to step back in? Maybe that's why he won't establish a charity. It does seem like he's considering his options. I suppose it would make sense if there is absolutely no way back for him into Sentebale in the future, that he may set up something in the region that does similar work. That seems to be his passion. But all in all, it's been a very ugly chapter, and just seems to have left everyone looking and feeling pretty bad.
Yeah, I think a complete rebrand is in order. I think Sophie is probably going to go down that route. And to be honest, in her defense, she seems quite passionate about the charity. And I think the things that she revealed about Harry and the fact that, you know, funding dropped off a cliff anyway because of Megxit, I don't think their presence, or his presence certainly, would be very much missed. I think what's going to happen is she's probably going to use this press, as negative as it is, to kind of still keep going and saying, listen, the focus is on the children and the beneficiaries of this charity. And, you know, good on her, because I do think she's very passionate about it. And in terms of Harry finding something else to do, yeah, I think this has been a bit of a shock. What basically the Charity Commission said, you've been naughty, sort yourselves out. And I think that's what Harry didn't want that. He wanted a complete vindication. And this is, again, why I say this man lives in a completely different bubble, because he actually wanted the Charity Commission to do things that was outside of their remit. He thinks you can just take everything to court and have an adjudicator, and he's so right. Like, it's kind of his approach with all the court cases.
He did the similar with his security court case.
Exactly. Just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, because I'm right and I'm going to have my day in court. And I don't think he really understands a world where he doesn't always get his way. And so, yeah, he's probably going to go off and do something else. I really don't think the whole Netflix showbiz thing is his shtick. He's definitely not going to be featured in any film acting, although that would be entertaining. But I do feel sorry for him in a way, because I think he's just been completely unmoored by this whole thing. The whole Sentebale thing, the whole leaving the royal family, finding his feet, having Netflix say go and sit on a horse and kick some balls around. It's been unmooring.
Well, he's probably been massively distracted by leaving the royal family and his whole move to the US and everything that's been going on with his Netflix deal and writing a book. Has he ignored the charity work that he does do he has done good charity work across the world, but particularly in Africa? He could actually do good things if he concentrate a little bit more, and if he was to set up a new charity, as he may well do.
I think it's definitely a possibility. I think it's also been really clear, and I believe it was mentioned in the Vanity Fair profile perhaps earlier this year, it does seem to be the thing that he actually does want to do. Unfortunately, it doesn't cover costs of their household. But, you know, working in this charity sector, and particularly in the areas that he's really passionate about, I do think that is just what he wants to do, which is why this has left him so bereft. But yes, there are Netflix shows to deliver, so, you know, he'll have to turn his focus to that now for a bit.
You mentioned about the funding earlier, saying that there was, since Megxit, they were struggling for funding. What I did read, and if I believe this to be true, I think it was in the US press, that the Meghan superfans known as the Sussex Squad, I'm sure they're avid viewers of this show, they previously funded Sentebale, you know, as a tribute to Harry and in memory of his mother Diana. They would have big fundraisers. I think last year it was about £47,000 a year, and so since Harry has been, as they feel, forced out, they're not going to give any money to Sentebale. That doesn't sound fair or the right, gracious thing to do, does it?
I mean, it's a bit, who cares? They only gave about 47 grand a year. That's someone's salary. I mean, that could easily be replaced. I think the press alone around this sort of whole fallout, you can have people saying, actually, I still think they do good work. I don't really care about the kind of brouhaha between the powers that be within the charity. And you can make it up quite easily. I do agree with the Charity Commission statement in the sense that like you have to think about who's been impacted by this the most, and it's been the children. And Harry, with Harry's statement, he was like, yes, that's what I was trying to point out. That's why I'm the best person for this cause. Well, you didn't go in 5 years, mate. So how much do you actually care about this charity and the children if you were so hands off and you were happy to let the little people on the ground, 500 staff members, I don't think you can even name even 10% of them, do all the work for so long. So, you know, I wouldn't fixate on the kind of temporary loss of this money.
And let's not forget, we had a few scandals about Africa Parks as well,
exactly.
which is Harry's connected to as well. That's been had a lot of coverage recently as well. I just feel he needs to kind of, you know, forget the TV stuff,
again.
go and concentrate on the good stuff that you used to do. But, you know, he's busy, and Meghan's probably in his ear telling him he needs to provide content for Netflix. Right, from one troublesome Duke to another, the Duke of York. So have you read my story? Prince Andrew, he's got the hump about a speed bump. And I kind of...
Oh, okay, yes, okay. Yeah, I was like, what story? What exactly, where are we going here? Okay,
no
yes.
one likes a speed hump,
Yeah.
okay? But so Prince Andrew, they've installed a series of speed humps across Windsor Great Park. It's a private park. Me and you, we can't drive around there unless we're invited guests. So Andrew, I've seen him driving around. He often looks a bit like Toad of Toad Hall. He's whizzing around in his Range Rover, buzzing past photographers who are waiting for him outside. They've installed these speed humps, and he was out on his horse, literally his high horse, the other day, and he peered down at one of the workmen and said, "What the F are you doing now?" He's got the hump about speed humps. Are you with Andrew? Do you like speed humps?
I'm never with Andrew, but particularly here. Okay, first of all, don't speak to people that are just doing their job like that. It's upsetting. Immediately, no matter who you are, I hate that. Secondly, if I'm going to be a bit cynical about it, if you're Andrew and you have the reputation that you have, oh, God, man, help yourself.
Yeah.
Help yourself. Be nice to people at the very least at this point, really. That's all you've got. As soon as I read this, I thought it's just... He has so much form in this area. There's been so many stories like this where he's yelled at staff for really ridiculously tiny things and made people feel... I think there was one about a gardener a couple of years ago who was then moved on because he was so horrible to them. Things like this, that really upsets me when people are just doing their job and going about it. Also, amazing reference with Toad of Toad Hall. I'm still giggling. But as soon as I read this, I thought, of course, Prince Andrew has such form in this area and it's so gross. I really hate when people are treated badly for doing their job.
Yeah.
Esther, what would you do if you were going about your job and Prince Andrew said to you, "What the F are you doing now?"
Calm down from your horse. Let's have a chat. Prince Andrew just sucks. He just sucks because he every single person that I've met, from people in the RAF to the Defence Forces more broadly, to service stuff, everyone that I've met that has come into contact with Prince Andrew says he's arrogant and he's rude and he's entitled. And the Epstein stuff aside, which still makes me so angry, why hasn't he conditioned his brain to understand that you should just be nice because that's what decent people do, but also you're a royal and any bad press will follow you like flies on rotting fruit. If you've seen, I just don't understand his complete lack of self-control and composure. You've seen someone doing something that they don't like, you don't like. Why is your immediate reaction to just assume that this is some random person from down the road trying to dig up a hole in your property? Why don't you just say, "Oh, what's going on? What's happening?" And I completely agree with you. He has such form for this, but I just don't understand why, because it's always blown back on him. I mean, I was like, let's get him a one-bedroom flat in Goa and just exile him from the country because he's such bad news. But it just it embeds in people's minds that the royals are these entitled, really snobby people, and that unless they have the massage of kind of the firm PR spin on them, they're actually really horrible people. And I don't think that's the case at all. I think they do really good work. They're basically a walking history lesson. And you have a few bad apples every single time. And this season happens to be Prince Andrew and his shenanigans. This is completely unacceptable.
It's just worth saying that while Andrew is probably will get away with, saying that he's guilty of being a bit pompous, arrogant, and coming out with, comments against, as you point out, the gardener, and he shouted at a maid for not pulling the curtains. He's never been convicted or found guilty of anything connected to Epstein, and as always,
that's a very low bar. That's an extremely low bar.
Yeah.
Like the bar is in hell at that point. Oh yes, I wasn't a convicted paedophile. Congratulations.
Yeah.